Hey everyone, Rob here from Daisho Tactical. Today I'm bringing you a video on weapon mounted lights on your carbine. This is a pretty basic topic really, and I have a tendency to not cover these basic topics very often, and I think it's important that I do because some people just don't know a lot. They're just getting into the firearms or tactics or whatever, and they don't have a lot of base knowledge on this stuff, and sometimes it's good to cover the basics. I know when I don't know what the hell I'm doing, like earlier this week I had to fix my gas fireplace because it stopped working, and the first place I went, YouTube, because I don't know shit about gas fireplaces, and so that's where I go to get my knowledge when I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm sure a lot of people in the firearms industry, same way. So let's talk about these real quick. First off, I'm not endorsing any particular light. I think less than performance, it's more your budget is what dictates for most people what tactical light they get on their rifle. Surefire is great. I love Surefire. I've had a lot of Surefire lights in my life. But honestly, at this point in my life, I really can't afford them. I can't justify spending $400, $500 on a tactical light. This is Streamlight ProTac. This is what my department issues to me. This is not a department gun, this is a personal gun. But because they issued a ProTac to me and I used it, I really liked it. I think it's a good light. It's not an amazing light, it's not a great light, but it's really affordable and it comes with everything you need. And I think for 98% of the shooters out there, ProTac Streamlight is going to serve you well. And just to be clear, Streamlight doesn't give me anything for free. I'm just being real about the product. For the money, for like $110 for this particular model, it comes with the light, the mount, the pressure pad, everything you need to be mounted on the carbine and go off to the races. So it's for the money, it's really good. Is it as durable as the Surefire? No, it's not going to be. But I found it's held up pretty good to duty use, daily use, getting in and out of a cruiser, in and out of a case. If I was going to take it over a mountaintop, probably get something a little more rugged, maybe something like a Surefire or a Mod Light, but that's just me. But for most people, this will work just fine. So once you work out what kind of lights you can afford, you want to start looking at what specific light do I want for this particular application, because lights do vary quite a bit, and not only lumens, but also candela, and then also like beam pattern and all that crap. What is the difference between those? The real short version is like lumens is like horsepower and candela is like torque. So candela is like what you can do with the horsepower, if that makes sense. And both the numbers, the industry kind of fudges them a lot. Manufacturers fudge them to try to sell more lights than the other guy. Ultimately, I recommend you, if you have a chance to test out a light, like outdoors in the environment you're going to use it in before you buy it, do that, or ask the opinion of the people you trust about what does that light really look like, because it does vary quite a bit. In this particular case, this light is only about a 350 lumen light. I have no idea what the candela is. It's an indoor light. It's a CQB light. This is a CQB gun, okay, to be used indoors. I've never felt like I didn't have enough light with 350 lumens inside. I used to clear houses all the time with 200 lumen and 90 lumen back in the day. So 350 for me is plenty. I'm not a big fan of arguing about photonic wall and I need to have more light than the opposition, so my light pushes them instead of their light pushing me. For my part, on the SWAT side, I've never run into that near peer kind of conflict where they're using the same equipment I have. Most criminals just use their cell phone for their flashlight, so I'm good on that. And the nice thing about this light, ideally, it's extremely small footprint on the weapon and it's extremely lightweight. Also, rechargeable battery, which is nice. It's dual fuel. It can use CR123s as well if that rechargeable stick battery takes a dump. If you take a look at it here, and yes, I'm going to point the muzzle at you. You see how tight that sits to the rail. It's a really, really tight fit. Real small footprint on the gun. I barely notice it on there, and it's extremely lightweight. Okay, that's what I want for a CQB light. This one works good. Also, the actual beam pattern. There's kind of two kind of beam patterns we're talking about here. There's like a floodlight, which kind of fills the room, and there's a spotlight, which has a really tight kind of cone that goes really deep. For an indoor light, you're going to want a floodlight to some degree. Most of them nowadays have like a floodlight, and then there's a really kind of hot spot in the middle of it that you can use to blind people, and that's kind of ideal for a CQB light. Now we're going to contrast this setup with a different weapon light setup I have on more of a long-range gun right over here. So this is my VPO rifle. This rifle is used almost exclusively on kind of overwatch operations where I'm outdoors and responsible for kind of a large area, and I might have to identify a target farther away. So for this, I have more of a spotlight, okay? Once again, this is a Streamlight ProTech. This is their HLX. It's over 1,000 lumens. Once again, I don't know what the candela is, but it has a really tight hotspot, and it's really good for identifying threats that are far away or whatever I got to look at. Might not be a threat, got to determine that. But if I want to spot something a block or two away, this light will do that for me. You'll notice it's a lot bigger, okay? Much larger footprint on the actual weapon. It's also a lot heavier, it takes up a lot more space. But I'm not so concerned with size and weight, because this, for the operations I'm doing with this gun, it's not really that big a factor. What the light actually does and how far it can reach out is what I'm looking for with this gun. So a quick note on where we're going to actually mount that light on the rifle. Now for me, I like the light to be as close to the rail system as possible, and I like it to be at about the 2 o'clock position. That's just how I like it, on my strong side. Okay, so if I'm doing CQB, right, and I got a piece of cover here and I'm clearing around it, I want the light to be on the side that the rifle is exposed to, so all that light is going downrange so I can use it. If the light is on the other side of the rifle, some of that light potentially, if I'm really tight on the cover, is going to bounce off the cover, come back to me, kind of light me up a little bit, and it's just not really effective, and it's going to bounce off that cover, and it's going to kind of keep me from seeing what I want to see. Some people prefer to mount their weapon light at the 6 o'clock or 12 o'clock position. 12 o'clock isn't so common now. It was the rage a few years ago. 6 o'clock is still pretty common. The advantage to that is it doesn't really matter what side of the cover you're going around. The light's going to work the same. Another nice thing, it is in line with the barrel. So if you kind of use your light as a quick kind of aiming reference point, it can be very handy for that. I don't prescribe to that approach, but there's some good arguments for it. But for me, 2 o'clock. I would just encourage you to wherever you mount it, have a reason you're mounting it that way. And it could be that's the only place it fits on your rifle because of your sighting system or whatever. That is what it is. But in an ideal world where I can do whatever I want, like on this rifle, 2 o'clock position works best for me. Finally, I'm going to talk real quick about cable management. For that, I'm going to head over to the workbench. So what am I talking about with cable management? I'm talking about how we keep the wires from the light and our pressure pad all kind of tight to the rifle and not out and exposed where they're going to catch on stuff. This is the #1 problem I see with new users when I teach a new user course. They show up day one, everything's squared away, but then inevitably the wires on their light are just hanging out here in the open and then get caught on stuff. It's really a huge problem when you actually come to using the rifle. If all you're doing is shooting paper on a range, you're not going to notice it, but real world, when you start working with a rifle, you're going to notice real quick it's a problem. So for me, I just use zip ties. Okay, you'll see I got 2 zip ties here, kind of fatter zip ties securing this pressure pad on the top of the rail, and then smaller zip ties here and here securing that wire right on the rail system. Some people are concerned about heat on the gas block if you do any rapid fire, causing these zip ties to break. Can it happen? Absolutely. Zip ties are cheap, just replace them. It's not that big a deal. Always have lots of extra zip ties on you. I've seen people use a bicycle tire. They'll just cut it up a small section and they'll put that over where the pressure pad is, and it keeps everything nice and tight. I think that's a valid option. I just don't do it. I've always done this, and this always works well for me. Some people also use this self-adhering medical wrap here. This stuff's really cheap, and it does work really well. You do have to replace it from time to time, but it's actually really soft, and it does a great job holding everything in place. Just understand it is going to absorb moisture, and therefore, if you're sweating a lot, you're going to have to replace this stuff every once in a while. So that's all I got on weapon lights. My parting advice would be, do your research, figure out what light is going to work best for you, for what you're using that rifle for. Don't always trust what you hear from the manufacturer. Obviously, they're biased. They're trying to sell their product. Try to find an opinion you trust and ask them, where do you use this light? How has it worked for you? And I would recommend you go to sources who actually use it, operationally every day, who actually do stuff with it, not just shoot at the range. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, hit the little bell. You guys know how YouTube works. You can also find me on Rumble. Better yet, you want to support my content, go to my website, daishotactical.com. That's my store. You can buy a variety of products there. Everything you buy there supports the content I make on this channel. Mostly I make a bunch of sling designs like this one in a variety of colors. Thanks for watching.